Hi students, it's Professor Tyberg and I hope you're having a great day today. Today I want to talk about setting up quotations in your essays. And so I'd like to present this PowerPoint called 3 Ways to Integrate Sources Using Quotation Marks. And of course it will be in MLA format. So here we go. But first, some punctuation and mechanics. So here are quotation marks. The words within the quotation marks are the exact words of the speaker or writer. Now, if the quotation is a complete sentence, capitalize the first word of the quotation and place quotation marks around the complete quotation. So, for example, Oscar Wilde declares, "All art is useless." Now, the sentence, the quote, "all art is useless," is a complete sentence, and so we must capitalize the A in all. If the quotation is a complete sentence, place the period inside the closing quotation marks, unless the sentence ends with an MLA in-text citation. So most of the time, your example will look like this. Oscar Wilde declares, "All art is useless," so the period goes inside the quotation marks. However, if you are using an MLA in-text citation and you use, for example, 5 to designate page 5, then the period does not go before the quotation marks, but instead goes after the parentheses here. Okay, the first way to integrate quotes, signal phrases. So a signal phrase includes the author's name and a signal verb. And you can see Rules for Writers, MLA section 55C, for more examples of signal verbs. So in this example, Oscar Wilde declares, "All art is useless." The signal phrase is Oscar Wilde declares. The author's name is Oscar Wilde, and then the signal verb is declares. Signal phrases, introductory phrase. So you can put the signal phrase at the beginning of your quote. For a quotation introduced by a signal phrase, place the comma after the introductory signal phrase. So take a look at this example. Pablo Picasso claims. So the comma goes after claims, which is the signal verb. And the comma is right after it. Then space. Art is a lie that makes us realize the truth. You can also put the signal phrase in the middle of your sentence. So that's called an interrupting phrase. When quotation is interrupted, place the comma before and after interrupting phrase. So let me move my picture here. In the end, says dancer Martha Brown, "It all comes down to breathing." So notice that the comma comes right here after the first part of the quotation, and then right after the author's name, Martha Brown. And the signal verb in this case is says. A signal phrase can also come at the end of your sentence. This is called an end phrase. So when placing signal phrase at the end of a quotation, end the quotation with a comma instead of a period. Take a look at this example. "Great art picks up where nature ends." So here you have a comma rather than a period. Then you have your quotation marks, then you have a space, then you have your signal verb, states, and your author, Marc Chagall. The second way to integrate quotes, introductory sentence. So instead of just using the author's name and a signal verb, use a sentence. When using a complete sentence to introduce a quotation, place a colon after the introductory sentence. And a colon, of course, is just 2 dots, one on top of the other. Take a look at this example. George Balanchine explains his philosophy about dance, colon. Dance is music made visible. So George Balanchine explains his philosophy about dance is a complete sentence. Therefore, you need to put a colon and not a comma after dance. The third way to integrate quotes, integrated quotations. Now this is a little bit trickier, but it's probably the most academic way to do it. If quotation is not a complete sentence, but you are integrating it into your own sentence, do not capitalize the first word of the quotation. So take a look at this example. Composer Ludwig van Beethoven calls music the mediator between the spiritual and sensual life. So notice that the is lowercase. It's not capitalized because the mediator between the spiritual and sensual life is not a complete sentence. Alright, so more on signal phrases. When analyzing a text, use present tense signal verbs to introduce your quotes. So for example, use a signal phrase like a signal verb like argues rather than past tense argued, or future tense will argue. Use present tense argues. Okay, that's it for now, students. I will talk to you soon. I hope that made sense. Have a great day.